Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is the video version of my Tech Guy radio show. We decided not to weigh you down with 6 hours of video, so this is the best of some of the best bits from this weekend's shows. These shows aired Saturday and Sunday, October 30th and 31st, 2010. Episodes 713 and 714, all mushed into one perfect package. Enjoy. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy, and it's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, and all of that. If you would like to join me in this conversation, of course, you can just listen and absorb. But you can also call in, and I'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 8888-ASK-LEO, 888-827-5536, 888-827-5536. That's toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., I know some of you are. You can easily reach us outside the U.S. Just use Skype. Skype out. And you can, because it's a toll-free number, I think you can call us absolutely free using the Skype out feature. And that's a free program. So anybody can play anywhere around the world. And, you know, it's an international thing these days, isn't it, technology? It is, without a doubt, a global phenomenon. I do the show from here, from the northernmost point of Silicon Valley, if you're generous, up in the north part of San Francisco Bay. There's some debate, you know, and people, Silicon Valley is traditionally down by San Jose. It all started when Hewlett and Packard, in a garage, I think it was in the 20s, founded a company called Hewlett Packard, made scientific instruments. Stanford, of course, is in Palo Alto. A lot of Stanford graduates formed tech companies. Intel, Fairchild, Semiconductor. The semiconductor industry started there in the South Bay of San Francisco. But nowadays, you know, a lot of what's going on in the world of tech is actually happening. Well, I mean, obviously there's Intel in Mountain View, and there's Apple in Cupertino. Although Intel's everywhere, isn't it? They have chip fabs everywhere, all over the world. And Apple makes everything in China, but the designers, the headquarters, the boss is in Cupertino, which is near San Jose. But the new kind of internet-based economy is all kind of focused in San Francisco. So is San Francisco Silicon Valley? Well, the Valley is traditionally not San Francisco, but I guess in some ways it is. And now I'm up here about an hour north of San Francisco in what used to be just cow country. But there's a lot of tech people up here too. So I don't know where Silicon Valley is a state of mind, isn't it? There are people all over the world who are innovating and changing technology. Hey, a little later on, in fact, about 20 minutes from now, Steve Gibson, my friend Steve Gibson, is going to join us. He's a security guru, a wizard. We do a security podcast together called Security Now on my TWiT network. And Steve is going to let us know about something that's pretty darn scary. And anytime anybody's using an open access point, you know, you go to a Starbucks or a McDonald's or your local bakery or coffee shop or restaurant or hotel, and you're using their Wi-Fi, this directly impacts you. And it is a major security issue. And frankly, while the open access spots can fix this by putting encryption on their open access, which means you need a password, you need to log in, it seems much more likely that what we're going to see as an upshot of the security issue is a change in the way websites work, because there really does need to be a change. So we'll talk about that. Please stay tuned. This is a I don't want to, you know, a lot of blogs and a lot of security pros and certainly security software companies love to sensationalize this stuff and scare people. And I'm not here to do that. But I am here to raise your awareness, and this is one we got to talk about. We'll talk about Fire Sheep in about 20 minutes with Steve Gibson. Very interesting. I have in my hands the new MacBook Air. This is an interesting product. Apple announced this last week. This is their, I guess, their version of a netbook. And of course, as true to Apple, it's about twice as much as even the most expensive netbooks. But you know, in many ways, it's more desirable with an 11-inch screen, a full-size keyboard, full-size trackpad. Really nice build quality, as you'd expect from Apple. In fact, Steve Jobs said, "We're not going to make a netbook. They're cheesy." You know, they're cheap, yeah, but they feel cheap, and it's true. Netbooks do feel a little cheap. Of course, it's nice to be able to get a $250 computer that can, you know, it's lightweight and you could carry with you, and it does all you need to do. But this MacBook Air starts at $1,000. On the other hand, the $1,000 version is probably all you need. It's 2 gigs of RAM. It's a 64 gig solid state drive. One of the things I like about this, and this is true of netbooks in many cases too. There's not only is there no optical drive, no DVD or CD-ROM drive. There's no spinning hard drive in here. It's just a chunk. It almost feels like a solid chunk of aluminum. But it's fast because the solid-state drive is fast, and the processor is not super fast processor. It's a low-powered Intel chip, faster though than the Atom that's used in most netbooks. And I have to say, despite the price, it's a very desirable commodity. I'm very impressed by it. In fact, I suspect it may be the last notebook computer I buy. I talked last week about the last desktop computer I bought, also an Apple product. Why do I buy Apple? Well, for a desktop, I bought Apple because it runs Windows and Mac. You know, you can buy a Windows machine, but it'll only run Windows. And I decided to buy an Apple because even though they're more expensive, yes, they do use, I think, very high quality parts, and they're the most flexible because I can easily legally run Windows and Macintosh on one system. And it runs both very nicely. So that I thought this is so powerful. This new it's Intel Xeon based. It's the Westmere chip. It's a 8 core processor, 16 threads because they're hyper-thread. I mean, this thing is a beast. 8 gigs of RAM. I thought, I can't see anything happening in the computer industry that's going to change things so much that I'm going to need a new computer for at least, I don't know, it could be even 10 years. We've heard this before, haven't we? And the same thing with this laptop. This replaces, I mean, in my mind, might even replace the iPad and a more powerful notebook. It's so light. You can almost put it in your pocket. Almost. Apple's on a roll, but not just Apple, Microsoft too. Wow. Did you see the... It's interesting because, a lot of economists say we're still in a slump economically, but you'd never know that if you look at how the tech industry is doing. The tech industry is just on a tear. And in fact, for the first time ever, Apple had higher revenues than Microsoft. Apple's revenues, this is for 3 months. Apple's revenues in the last quarter, I think was it $21 billion? Microsoft's revenue, also record revenue. I think they had 14-something billion. It's kind of funny when you get to numbers that big and you say, oh, they had, incredible revenue of, let's see, their revenue was $16.2 billion. But, the 0.2 doesn't sound like much until you realize that $0.2 billion is $200 million. So I shouldn't leave off the point. 200, $100 million here or there, it starts to add up. $16.2 billion, that's up 25% over the year to date. And well above what Wall Street expected. Earnings per share, 62 cents. Now, the important thing to point out is that, yes, Apple had more revenue, but Apple's selling hardware. Microsoft's selling bits. Microsoft's net profit, its income went from $3.57 billion last quarter, or actually the first quarter of fiscal year 2010, to 5.41. There we go again with it. It's $400 million, big deal. $5.41 billion in the last 3 months, almost $1 billion, $2 billion a month. Windows 7, a year old, still selling like crazy. Office 2010, brand new, selling like crazy. Microsoft doing really, really well. So I think we can safely say that the tech industry is on a roll. Xbox 360 consoles sold very well. Xbox 360 games sold very well. My friend MG Siegler, writing in on the tech blog TechCrunch, said, well, yeah, but their online business lost $2 billion. Actually, if you think about it, even though they lost $2 billion online with Bing and things like that, and they still made $5.41 billion, I think they're doing okay. But you see this all the time in a really big company like Microsoft. They make an investment. They're making an investment in Bing, their search engine. And yeah, it costs a lot of money up front. I think they can afford it. So very, very good year for quarter for Microsoft and Apple. Happy to hear that the tech industry is doing well. Let's see what else is going on. Have any of you purchased Office, the new Office for Macintosh? I'm just curious. I haven't, and I'm wondering, do people outside of the corporate need to buy Office anymore? You know, Microsoft offers a really good version for free of Office in the cloud. It's not as full featured as the desktop version, but it doesn't cost you anything, and it's free in the cloud. And of course, there's other competitors like Google Docs. Does anybody really need to buy Office anymore? I'd love to know what you think of that one. 8888 Ask Leo. I was talking to somebody last night. She was saying, when is Microsoft going to offer Office for the iPad? And I thought, what? What? Are you insane? But then she said, no. She said that's what you need. You need a full-fledged word processor and spreadsheet on the iPad. I think there's one. They're telling me in the chat room. Well, we also have an open version of Office. It's free Open Office. That's true. I wonder, do people really? I guess Microsoft's still making money on it. Do you really buy Office? Do you need it? 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Your call's next. We're going to go to Huntington Beach first. Mike is on the line. Hey, Mike. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hello,
Hi, Leo,
Mike.
can you hear me?
Yes. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Quick question. We've noticed recently on TV advertisements by either Duracell or Everready for a rectangular plate that you just lay 4 cell phones on, up to 4, and it charges them. Yep.
This is a very...
Does that work well? Do you
it does, but you have to... This is the thing they may not emphasize. This inductance charging, it's called. And actually, Palm put it on their Pre. And there's another company that makes these. Wow, what's the name? But you see the ads for them everywhere. But the thing they don't mention is you have to put a new back on the phone or the device.
Oh, we have the Droid X's.
So you'd have to get a special back, which they'll sell. So they sell you the pad, and then they have to get a special back. And that back, wait till you see it, it's kind of clunky. It's not really real pretty. You know, I love my Droid X Power Mat. That's the thank you, Dr. Mom. Power Mat's the other company. And I love the Droid X because it's so slim and beautiful. And what you'd have to do is you'd have to take off that back, and they'd put a new back on there. Because what's happening, you know, this is like those inductance heating elements in some stoves where they don't have it uses, I guess, magnetic conduction, creates a magnetic field that does the charging. It charges pretty fast, pretty much as fast as it would if you plugged it in. It's nice because you take the phone out of your pocket, you throw it on the mat. You can put multiple devices on there, but each of them will have to have a special back that will receive the power from the pads. They're getting smaller than they used to be, but I would look and make sure, Mike, you can live with that before you run out and get them. How do you like the Droid X?
I think we could.
Yeah. No, I love...
Well,
see,
that's what we have you to ask about it.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I love the Droid X, too, and I bought... And this is another thing I'll warn you against. I went to Verizon. They have an extended battery for the Droid X. The normal battery they sell, I think, is... I don't know, 1,500 milliamp hours, and the new one, I think, is 1,800. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't make a hill of beans difference. So save your $49. And, you know, the truth is, on all of these smartphones now, they barely go a day. They go a day if you're judicious. They don't go a long day. You know, if you get up in the morning and you go out at night, they don't go from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. very well. So you got to have some charging, whether it's in your car or at your desk.
Yeah, we've learned that, but we still love the phone. So
it's worth it. It's a great phone. Yeah. It's a really great phone. I think the Droid X, the screen size, the functionality of Android is really fantastic. Hey, thanks for the call, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Leo.
Yep.
Nice talking to you. Bye-bye.
Nice to talk to you. Yeah, I think that when they did it with the Palm Pre, the back wasn't so big. It didn't have to be, but of course they built it into the Pre initially, and you had to buy the special charging dock that you put it in. Power Mat's been around doing this a long time. In the chat room, JD or J Dan Canyon, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, says it's a magnet with polarization in opposites of the pad. So you have a magnet in the pad and an opposite polarized magnet. You know how magnets will resist? I guess somehow that energy between the two of them is used to charge it up. Boy, that was a lousy explanation. I flunked physics. Physics 101. I'm sure somebody can call and help me explain that much, much better. Karen, Murphy's, California. Hi, Karen. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Guys, I've been listening to you since Tech TV back in the 90s.
Them's was the good old days.
Those were the good old days.
That was before my hair went gray with craziness. Yes.
Are you going to be in Las Vegas next year?
I am.
Oh, good.
I'm going to be in Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show. We'll broadcast live from there first week of January.
Okay. How does a person go about getting tickets for the consumer show?
Well, and this is a fun show to go to. It's not open to the public. It's open to dealers. It's really a dealer show. But if you look around, in fact, you could Google free CES passes. It's not so hard. You know, consumer electronics companies will often figure out a way for you to get in there. So if you're interested in going, it's really fun to go, Karen. And I'm sure I'll be there for other reasons too. You know, I went to Blog World this year a couple of weeks ago. Vegas is where all the trade shows. Are you in Vegas? Why do you ask?
Well, we're in Murphy's, right above Sacramento, but we want to go to Vegas.
You want an excuse? You want an excuse to go to Vegas, huh?
Yes.
Well, Leo's going to be there, honey. Let's go.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we'll do a whole week at the Consumer Electronics Show, and I'll broadcast, as I did this last year, Saturday and Sunday, I'll do the radio show from the Consumer Electronics Show. It's fun to do that because that's where you really see not so much stuff that's going to come out right then, but stuff that's going to come out later in the year. The stuff we saw in January, like 3D TVs, are just now coming out, all over the country. So it's kind of fun to get a sense of what's coming.
So go to Google that, and see what
Google
you can find.
free CES tickets, and it's we're getting close enough. It's only a few months off. CES is a lot of fun, and the nice thing about CES is that it's really easy to get to the gambling tables because the geeks really don't. They're too busy playing with their phones. They don't really. We don't want to really gamble. So sometimes you'll see it at one of these big Vegas geek conventions. They actually start covering up tables and sending dealers home. We don't really gamble much. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I understand the odds. The odds are very bad, very bad. Now, Steve is a security guru. He does our podcast Security Now. And this week on Security Now, he was all happy and gleeful and everything. And I thought, what are you so happy about? He said, well, wait till you hear about Firesheep. Steve is the man in charge of grc.com. That's where you can go for Shields Up and a bunch of great security tools. He's also the author of SpinRite, which has been around for many years. Is really the hard drive maintenance and recovery utility. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, Leo. Great to be with you.
I'm so glad you're here today because I really want to talk about Firesheep. You were excited, but you were excited for kind of an unusual reason about Firesheep.
Yes, I was excited because, like all security-oriented professionals who watch what's going on the internet, I've been, and of course you and I talk about this on our weekly podcast, continually upset by the insecurity of open Wi-Fi, that is wireless hotspots.
These are the sites that you go to, or places like if you go to Starbucks or your local hotel where you get online. You don't need a password. You're just online.
Right. Your computer, you turn it on and it says, oh, look, here's, you can connect to this location and be on the internet.
I would say most of us use one of those every day, as we travel around.
It's incredibly convenient, But the problem is, which really people are just not aware of because they don't see it, is that their data, everything that they're doing, can be eavesdropped on very easily by a hacker. And so what you trade for the convenience of not having to like log on and know a password or anything is that other people can really capture what's going over the airwaves. So the reason I'm excited about Firesheep, excited in a strange way, is that last Sunday, this tool was introduced by some security researchers at a security conference in San Diego. This is essentially hacking for the masses. Anyone can download this. It's free. And as of the moment we're talking about this, not even a week later, 465,000 copies of this have been downloaded.
Now, I downloaded, and by the way, it is technically, well, not even technically, literally illegal to use this. It violates wiretap law, and you could get in trouble for it, especially if you hack people's accounts with it. But I went to a coffee shop where a friend of mine owns it, and I went in there, and I have Firefox installed on my laptop. I downloaded Firesheep, took me a minute, fired it up, and all of a sudden I see my name on Twitter, my name on Facebook, a picture of me on Twitter and Facebook in the sidebar. I see some other people. And I literally, all I had to do to log, and so I had a friend who was sitting next to me. I said, okay, Vanessa, she had her laptop there. I said, I want you to log into your Facebook account. She did. Now, I'm not monitoring her traffic at this point. That's not what Firesheep does. But she logged into Facebook. Her name and picture then popped up onto my Firefox.
Just sort of like a buddy list.
Like a buddy list. I double-clicked it, and all of a sudden, I'm looking at her Facebook. I'm logged in as her on my computer. Without her password, without her permission.
Yes.
And I said, now, Vanessa, I just want to show you what I can do. And I put an update saying, I just hacked your computer. And now this was with her permission because it is illegal to do this. But I did it I did it to show the owner of the coffee shop the risks that she was running by running this open access spot.
Right. So college campuses have gone insane since this was released.
Well, can you imagine? Anywhere there's an open access point.
Yes, and, you know, frat houses and libraries and free open access on college campuses, especially because college kids are they're a little more, you know, prone to have fun at each other's expenses. But the reason I wanted to talk to you about this today is sort of to spread the word that this kind of thing exists, that it's no longer necessary to be a high-end, super dark hacker person.
You could do this before. This is using something called cross-site cookie capturing. And
yes,
you could do this before, but you had to be a relatively skilled hacker using Cain and Abel. It wasn't that hard, but it wasn't that easy either.
It has created what's been called, I've been reading about it ever since we talked about it in the middle of a week, a firestorm, because it makes it so easy. I mean, you don't have to know anything about computers to
even an idiot like me could do it.
Well, I mean, literally, 465,000 people now have a copy of this, and people are now they're now seeing other people running Firesheep in coffee shops and in, you know, where there are open Wi-Fi access points. So who knows what they're doing? As you say, it's illegal to mess with anybody else's communications. That technically falls foul of wiretap law. But, you know, what's illegal and what's being done are two very different things.
Well, and, you know, in a way, this is a bad thing because I went to my friend's coffee shop and I demonstrated it to her. And by the way, we're going to tell you in a second what you could do about this. I didn't want to go to the next doors to the Starbucks because I didn't know how I'd be received. They could very easily have thrown me in jail, saying, well, how dare you?
Well, and of course, this is the trouble that Google got into when they were driving around streets capturing people's wireless that was unencrypted.
They got passwords and stuff.
They weren't doing anything with it, but it really did upset people.
So there are two ways to fix this. First, if you run an open access spot, and this is what I told my friend who runs a coffee shop, and she did this immediately. I said, go into your router and turn on WPA encryption. She did that. Now there's a negative because people now have to have a password. So I said, just rename your access point to the name of, Della, and then in parentheses, password is password. So it's okay if people know the password.
Well, that's a great idea to put the name of the password
in the SSID.
In the name. Yeah, it's very good, Leo.
So that way she, everybody who gets on her network sees that and says, oh, okay, I need to enter a password. It's okay to, because, now tell me how this works. WPA isolates you so this Firesheep doesn't work?
Yes, even though everybody knows the password, the WPA encryption, which is now standard across the whole industry, it's available everywhere.
On all modern routers anyway.
It does encrypt all of the traffic per user of the hotspot. Okay. So it completely forecloses Firesheep and any other simple sort of passive sniffing of the traffic like that. And as you say, it is easy to do, costs nothing. Then users one time would have to put the password in, which their computer would remember next time they were back there.
And they're protected from then. Firesheep won't work. Now, long term, there's a better solution. And this is why Google, just a few months ago, said from now on, all of your Gmail transactions will occur over HTTPS, secure HTTP.
Right. In fact, Facebook has responded to the release of Firesheep by saying we are actively testing security for Facebook, and it's going to take us a few months, but we will then be immune to this because we will keep our own Facebook users secure from their browser to our server, and it won't matter what happens in between. And that's the change, that's the real change that Facebook and Twitter and MySpace and Amazon and everybody else who only uses encryption briefly for logon, then doesn't bother to encrypt the rest of the time. They all have to do it all the time.
So that's what's happening, just to get a little bit technical, but that's what's happening is that, if you didn't do this cookie thing, every time you went to a new page on Facebook, you'd have to re-log in. You'd have to identify yourself each time. That's a pain. So what Facebook does the first time you give it a password is says, well, here's a token. Here's a cookie that's unique to you. And from now on, we'll just query you and say, do you have that token? And for the rest of this session, you won't have to log in again. The problem is that token is flying through the air, can be grabbed by somebody else. Once they have that token, they're you.
Yes, and that's exactly what Firesheep did for you when you, with her permission, clicked on your friend's little buddy picture there, was it grabbed her ID, and you were able to impersonate her to Facebook and had full access to her account. People are, I've been reading reports of this, that people are posting Twitter messages from people they don't know and hacking each other's Twitter accounts. And there's been a lot of this going on this week. So I'm excited about this because this will force the change from companies like Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and so on. It's just been laziness and inertia that has let them leave things the way they were, never being as secure as they really can be. And this will affect that change.
Not coincidentally, yesterday, Facebook released data on how hard it was for them to put secure HTTP on all Gmail transactions. They said, not only were we able to do this by flipping a switch, it uses very little bandwidth, very little server cycles. It is a virtually free thing to do. They said this is not an onerous burden.
You said Facebook, but you meant Google.
I meant Google. Yeah, Google's been doing it. I hope Facebook. I hope Twitter, Yelp. I was able to log into people's Yelp accounts. And I mean, imagine, if you were a nefarious coffee shop owner, as soon as somebody comes in and logs into Yelp, you go in and write a review for yourself under their name, things like that.
Yeah, well, these kinds of things will occur to people, and Firesheep, unfortunately, will get used for some ill purpose, but that's what's going to create the pressure to get this fixed for the future, which is really what we need. And it took this. It wasn't going to happen otherwise.
Thank you, Steve, for calling in and raising the awareness. If you're interested, we do a great podcast on this subject. We just did one this week. If you want to know the more technical stuff, it's grc.com/security now is Steve's podcast site, grc.com/security now. We do that show every Thursday on the TWiT network. Steve Gibson is the man in charge at GRC, the Gibson Research Corporation, grc.com. And go there and get SpinRite, too, which we talk about all the time on this show. It's a great hard drive maintenance utility. Thanks, Steve, for calling in. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Leo.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll talk a little more about this and about a solution for Firefox that might be pretty cool coming up. Let's see. We wanted to say hello to Dick DeBartolo. He's our GizWiz, Mad Magazine's maddest writer. He does a daily gadget podcast with me called The Daily GizWiz every Monday through Friday at twit.tv/DGW. And he's joining us right now to give us a little gadget review. Dick, I can't hear you. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
You were just so quiet.
Oh, yeah, no. That lady's screaming. Is she watching the Daily GizWiz?
That is so funny. So that I guess she's a writer for Ellen DeGeneres, and they were mean. They sent her through a haunted house and videotaped it. And
it's the kind of meanness that you would do yourself. Come on.
I couldn't stop laughing.
I know. How about Lisa? Can we do something like that to Lisa? Lisa would probably scare the people in there.
She'd punch the ghost out. It'd be all over. Lisa's a CEO of my network, and she's a little bit scary herself. She's tough.
Oh, yeah.
You don't mess with Lisa.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So what do you got for us today, Dick?
Well, Leo, I thought I'd mention we did it at TWiT Cottage when I was out there, but we didn't tell the radio audience about that new Acer Timeline X.
You showed me this thing. That is gorgeous, and that is kind of timely because everybody's talking about this little thin and light MacBook Air right now, but Acer's got something that's amazing.
Yes, exactly. Same screen size. It's 11.6 inches, and there were already two. What they basically have done is taking their netbook size and format and made a really high-powered laptop in the netbook size. As I said, an 11.6-inch screen. The new one has the i7 processor.
Much faster processor than the MacBook Air.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
500 gigabyte hard drive, 4 gigabytes of RAM, BGN Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, webcam, Dolby Sound, HDMI out.
Now, here's what I'm interested in.
Yes.
They're claiming 8 hours battery life. What are you getting?
Well, you know what? The funny thing is, Leo, both ways, my Continental flights had DirecTV. So I had brought it on the flight specifically to play movies going. What I should have done, I should have just let the movies run, even though I wasn't watching them.
Well, did it last the whole flight?
I did not do that.
You didn't even use it. You watched the TV in the back of the seat.
Exactly.
It's I have to say it's beautiful, and it is. If you want a Windows version of the MacBook Air, this seems like the closest thing. It's an Acer Aspire Timeline. And which model number do you have?
Leo, it's very confusing. The line itself is the 1830, but they make it with the i3 and the i5. So if you want it with the new i7, it's the 68U 11.8.
The 68U 11.8. Well, that's nice, catchy.
Yes,
that just leaps to the tongue.
The Acer Jitterbug, the Acer something.
Yeah, give it a name, dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, do you have the 68U 11? No, I think we have the 6U 966K.
Now, the Apple MacBook Air starts at $999, and depending on how big the screen and how fast the processor and how much storage, it can go all the way up to $1,600. How much is the time?
Okay, so their line starts at 600 with the i3.
Okay.
700 with the i5, and a little bit under 900 with the i7.
So it is a lot less. Although, i5 is probably fairly comparable to the Core 2 that's in the MacBook Air. Do they use real hard drives or solid-state drives?
They're using real hard drives, 500 gigabytes on the i7 laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat.
I think that's one of. I wish I'd had this MacBook Air when you were here with your timeline.
We could have done
a test because I have to say, and I was talking about this earlier this hour. The solid state drive in the MacBook Air really speeds it up. It's more than just the processor that makes the difference. It's the solid state processor in there.
And how much memory is in that?
I upgraded to 4 gigs for $100. It comes with 2 gigs, but for additional $100, you can put 4 gigs of memory in there.
Okay.
And a 64 gig hard drive. Oh, you mean you're talking about the hard drive? Yeah, well, I got the 64 gig hard drive, which is it's funny because don't you remember not so long ago where a 2 gig hard drive was big, and now we're saying 64 gigs paltry.
Well, you know what? A 64 gigabyte hard drive when it first came out was like $800 on its own.
I know.
So what did it add to the cost of?
It comes with. That's what it comes with.
Oh,
they don't offer it with a regular hard drive at all.
Oh.
You can't, and that's one of the reasons it's so thin and light is that there's no hard drive enclosure at all in there. I like it. I'm very happy, and I've put a lot of programs on there, and I still have 30 gigs left. What you can't do and what you won't do is store a lot of music or movies or TV shows or any of that rich data on there. You'll have to put those either on an external hard drive or something else. Dick T. Bartolo is at gizwiz.biz. That's his website. You can watch the podcast at twit.tv/DGW. I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Scott Wilkinson is the home theater guru. We're trying to get his video up. I see just a black screen, Scott. There you go.
Here I come. Hang on a second.
Because I want to see Scott, because I think because it's Halloween today, I've been a bad man. I did not
You're not wearing a costume.
I did not wear a costume. But Scott, my God, you've got a hat that's... Now, you do know, Scott, that this is radio.
Yes, I do know, but we've got a few people watching on live.twit.tv.
We do.
So I thought, what the heck? I might as well wear my wizard suit.
He is
which
the
my
wizard.
Grandmother made. There I am.
Grandma made that?
Well, she didn't make the hat. The hat's from Disneyland.
Okay.
This is the.
Well, stand up and let's see the rest. The hat has Mickey Mouse ears, so I should have known that are blinking. Wow, that's gorgeous. He's got shooting stars and moons. Do you have a wizard's staff as well?
I do. I don't have it with me, unfortunately.
Can you play it like a trombone?
No, but that's a good idea.
Yeah. He's the king of...
Come here.
King of wind instruments.
My wife is wearing her skeleton outfit.
Oh, let's see. I'd love to see that. Now, of course, again, this is radio, so I'll just try to describe this.
Okay, here's my staff right
He looks
here.
like... The chat room is saying you look like Gandalf's goofy brother. Oh, my goodness gracious. How terrifying. So you just... so let me understand this. You just get dressed up and you...
Ways. Hello, everybody.
Hey, you get dressed up and hang around the house, Scott? Is that your idea?
No, my wife actually does like to get to put on her skeleton outfit for Halloween, just for grins, and for her students. She's a voice teacher.
Oh, that's good. All right.
So she does that anyway.
How
so
cute.
I wanted to dress up a little for Halloween. Happy Halloween to everybody.
Scott Wilkinson is the editor, believe it or not, is the very highly regarded editor-in-chief of the Ultimate AV Magazine at ultimateavmag.com, a columnist at Home Theater Magazine. And he does a great podcast. I should really plug it more often when you're on because it's such a good show. I watch it every Monday.
Man. Last week was fantastic. It was Jeremy Kipnis, owner of the world's most expensive home theater.
It's known. He's known for that.
Yeah, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records. Literally.
How much?
$6 million.
Okay, he wins. He wins. Holy,
it's astonishing. It's astonishing. So you really should check that out.
That's more than most theaters.
Yeah, exactly. It's more than most.
You could build a multiplex for that.
But it's astonishing. Oh. It's really amazing.
Well, I like it because it's if price were no object, what would you buy? What is his projector? Just out of curiosity, does he use a Runco?
No, he's got two. He's got the Sony. He's got two. One of them's a digital cinema projector, the Sony 4K. And he's got another 4K from Meridian, which is about $180,000 by itself.
I didn't know they made 4K projectors. That's double the resolution.
Quadruple.
Horizontally and double vertically of HD. So it's total of 4 times the pixels. But but is there any 4K content he can watch on this system?
Not much yet.
But he's ready.
But he's ready. Most studios do, in fact, master or archive in 4K. Most films are still filmed on film, so to speak, and then they digitize them. And typically these days they're digitizing at 4K. And then they convert that to 1080p for Blu-ray or 2K.
So is film more than 4K resolution? Is it?
Well, that's a very good question. It depends on. There's some debate about exactly how can you.
It's not pixels, so it's not comparable.
It's not pixels. No, the resolution in a way is, the film grain.
Right.
And the film grain is very, very tiny. But then there's the question of how much resolution can the human eye see? which is there are certain ways to determine that, and it depends in part on how close you're sitting to the screen and so on. But is
there a rule of thumb, a number?
I think it's like 1/10 of a degree of arc, something like that. I haven't looked at it lately. I'd have to go back and look.
We have an eye doctor, eye doc Mark, in our chat room. I'll have to ask him.
Well, then he probably will know.
He'll know. He'll know the optical.
He'll know what.
But it's hard to convert that to pixels.
It is. It is, because it depends on how far away you're sitting.
Right.
Even a 4K display, if you're right up against the screen, you can see those pixels. But you have to be really, really close to the screen.
You might need a magnifying glass on that one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. So if you want to hear his podcast, the best thing to do is go to our TWiT website, which is twit.tv.
Yep.
And his page, there's a link on the front page, but his page is HTG for Home Theater Geeks. So it's twit.tv/HTG if you want to go directly there. And,
tomorrow, my guest is a guy named Chris Huston, who's an acoustical engineer and a recording engineer and producer who grew up in Liverpool, went to art school with John Lennon.
Wow.
And in fact, his band, The Undertakers, played in Liverpool, and the Beatles opened for them.
Yeah, I bet he goes to bars and tells people that, and they go, "Yeah, sure."
No, but in this case, it's really true. And he's got a bunch of amazing stories. So, and he's going to be doing it. He's going to be doing the podcast from the Sound Kitchen in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, a legendary studio.
So we're going to see some pictures and some video from the Sound Kitchen, which I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah. Hey, one other thing I wanted to really mention really quickly. If you go to my website, you're going to like this. If you go to my website, ultimateavmag.com, and on the homepage, scroll down a couple of stories, you're going to see our first poll or vote. And the vote question is modern 3D a leap forward or merely hype?
Ooh.
I know you've got a strong opinion about this.
Yeah.
So I want you to vote.
Now, it's interesting because I had a guy in here yesterday who runs a skateboard company, Deluxe Skateboards, and makes skateboard video. And he is making 3D videos now. And, I think that's an application that I bet you is a pretty good one. That I don't know how many avid skaters have 3D TVs, but if they do, I can bet they would want a 3D skateboard video.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
There could be a very good...
These are kind of little markets,
Yeah, exactly. So on our vote, anybody can vote. All you have to do is click on one of those selections, which is, do you think it's a leap or a hype? Maybe it's both a leap and a hype, or 3D's already over.
Wow.
And then click the vote button. And when you do, you'll see the results that we've gotten so far. And I really, really would like to encourage anyone who does this to also leave a comment. Because once you vote, you can leave a comment. And I would love to hear what people think about this, because I know it's an issue of strong opinions.
Yeah. And, I won't say anything because I don't want to poison the well, but I'd be very interested to see what the results are.
Yeah, exactly. We've got over 100 votes so far, and we've only had it up since Friday. So,
well, now you should get a few. UltimateAVMag.com. It's right at the kind of the middle of the page. Just scroll down a little bit. You'll see that.
Just scroll down a little bit, and you'll see it. Exactly.
Each week, the entry is modern 3D, a leap forward or merely hype. Scott posted that on the site, and you'll be able to see that, and then see the people in their glasses.
Yeah.
Which is funny. This is a modern shot that looks just like the old one with the red and green glasses from the 50s from House of Wax. People don't look, let me put it this way, it may not be hype, but you still look just as dorky as you did then.
Yeah, well, that may very well be. And there are plenty of people who feel that the glasses are isolating and alienating and remove people from each other in this communal experience of watching a movie, or in the case of 3D TV, watching TV. So I would love to hear what people have to say about this. And each week I'm going to post another poll question, and I'm trying to go for those questions that really that instill strong feelings in people one way or the other, because there are a lot of issues in home theater that are not trivial and not simple and not obvious, and people have strong opinions one way or the other, and I'd really like to know what people think about them. So
I'm sure we got about a minute left. If you've got a quick question and answer. Yeah,
sure. I actually got an email from a listener who watches live.twit.tv. He noticed your Skyposaurus.
Yes.
And he said, how can I do that in my home theater? There it is, the Skyposaurus, which is 4 computers, I guess, certainly 4 displays that are mounted together in what's called a tiled video configuration. And this fellow wanted to know, Gary Mack wanted to know, how can I do that at home? How can I do that with TVs? And the answer is, it's not easy.
They sell boxes for thousands of dollars that will do that.
Exactly. Runco makes a system called the window wall that starts at 20 grand and goes up from there. And the 20 grand, I think, will get you a 2x2, four
Forget
displays.
It. Hang on a second. We got to take a break. Scott Wilkinson, right. UltimateAVMagazine.com. We'll be back in just a second with more. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 20 grand. You could do it. See, this only cost us like a few $1,000s.
Right. And as I told this person that was a custom job.
But not that custom. It's easy. It's 4 computers.
Well, yeah, but it's 4 computers.
4 computers, 4 monitors. This is not 1 monitor. It's 4 monitors. And then you buy a mount that mounts the 4 monitors. The tile, it's pseudo tiling. All we do is just put a different desktop on each screen that kind of lines up.
Yeah, he wants to be able to watch, a movie that's spread across all 4 of those
What he
screens.
wants to do is a single monitor with multiple views, and that's, of course, much more expensive because you have to change the signal.
Right.
We didn't do it that way for that reason. But this works great for us. I mean, we wanted the isolation of and I don't mind this bezel. You almost would want this bezel, otherwise, it's not, that's fine.
Right. And if you're going to watch if you're going to watch a movie or something on all 4 of them, you'd want those bezels to be as thin as possible. And even then, they're going to be obvious.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to watch a movie that way.
So there's video walls. We'll clarify this. There's video walls that take multiple, and you see these at trade shows and stuff, multiple screens and make it one thing.
Exactly.
And then there's the opposite, which is to take one big screen and divide it into picture-in-picture screens.
Right. In fact, Jeremy Kipnis, the guy who with the $6 million home theater, can do that because he's got a 4K projector, which means he can put 4 1080p pictures up on the screen.
Oh, yeah, because he's got 4 times the resolution. That's interesting.
That's right. Yeah.
That's interesting, huh?
So it's possible to do, but it ain't cheap.
Right. Well, there is a blog post on how we put together Skyposaurus that people can find at leoville.com, and it's
good.
There's nothing to it. I mean, it's 4 Atom, PCs. Let me see. I'll find it for you. And
by the way, we didn't talk about Google TV. I did not get a Google TV, but I'm very interested in your comments about it.
I think it's really ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm expecting one. I'm gonna.
I'll be curious what you have to say about it too.
Absolutely.
So this was 16 March 2009.
Colleen put that together, right?
Yeah, and this is my blog post, which talks about all the specs. So here's the case we used, the motherboard, the RAM, the hard drive. It was $175 per computer. The monitors are $107 each. The monitor stand is $285. The total cost $1,500. So it and then I explain
for what you're doing. It's great.
It's what we want. Yeah, I explain how we do mix minus, so that because the audio is actually the only tricky thing, and then we have a matrix switcher. So there you go. And this blog post really tells you everything you need to know about how to Skyposaurus.
I see you've done a little Halloween thing on Leoville there.
Yeah, I like to do it. My friend from Mac Merck, Rick Yeager, did a bunch of holiday titles for the website, and I keep forgetting to roll them in.
Oh, this is a good question from the chat room. Isn't the problem with Google TV one more of access and not anything inherent in the product?
No, it's inherent in the product. It's way overcomplicated. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, seriously, okay, so you have to have a giant remote because you need a keyboard.
No, actually, you don't unless you want to type something.
Well, but you need to. You can't search. I mean,
you can also get the smaller remote, which
has a full keyboard on it, though.
Yeah, but it's a thumb. It's more like a size of a cell phone.
I far prefer, to be honest with you, the Logitech remote to that Sony remote. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and you can use your Android phone, which I have used. But so you got buttons for TV, guide, the cable guide, and then you've got the home button, which it takes you to. It fades the TV out and brings up a full screen menu of crap. You know, it's partly the problem is that you're trying to integrate a lot of different sources into one box. So there's no elegant way to do that.
I'm not sure that there's no elegant way to do that.
Well, Roku's about as elegant as you can get. Here we go. Hold on. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson's here. He's our home theater wizard. And today he really is.
Seriously, today I really am.
He really is in his wizard outfit. We're going to get back to the phones in a moment. 8888 Ask Leo. Once again, Scott will be here this coming Saturday for 3 hours of home theater, so we won't belabor it today. But you were explaining how... Now, there's two different ways to do... And I'm not sure what the caller was wondering. One would be to have multiple monitors with a single picture on it. You see that at trade shows a lot, where you have a video wall, and obviously you're not going to have a 400-foot monitor, so you have multiple monitors, and then you divide the signal into each one. That's the Runco thing, right? That's 20 grand. That's expensive.
Correct, and that'll do it either way. It'll either spread the entire picture across all monitors or put a separate picture in each one. It'll do it either way, which is what this guy wanted to do. Well,
what if, though, he wanted to have one big screen with multiple pictures in it, picture-in-picture?
You can certainly do that. Jeremy Kipnis, the guy who has the $6 million home theater, who was on my podcast last week, does that with his 4K projectors. He can put four 1080p signals, four 1080p images on the screen at the same time.
Only $6 million, folks.
Well, that's including the audio, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But those projectors are very expensive. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. They're extremely expensive. So, I mean, Runco is only 20 grand. That's easy compared to, the 180 for a Meridian 4K.
Oh, that's funny. Well, Scott, you can find Scott at theultimateavmag.com. Don't forget to take his poll on 3D. I'd be very curious. Next week we'll talk about what the audience
result of that
thinks.
Was.
Yeah.
Yes.
The poll
right
results.
Now, hype is leading.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
I don't want to poison the results.
I know what your opinion is, so we'll talk about that next week.
Anybody who listens to this show with any regularity knows exactly what I think, but we'll leave it at that. We were going to, I was talking at the beginning of the hour, and you haven't yet reviewed a Google TV unit.
No, I have not gotten it yet. I was hoping to get it this week, but I haven't yet. So I am listening with great interest to your comments on it.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll form my own opinions.
No, I hope you will.
I'll tell you about those as soon as I can.
So somebody in the chat room said that the issue is just that you're trying to. It's not so much the Google TV. He thinks it's not so much the Google TV as the fact that you're trying to all these disparate sources, some of which are blocked now. And I agree. That's the challenge for any device like this, is to take content from all these different sources. That's what the goal is, right? Is take content from all the possible sources, including the internet, and make it easy to access in some sort of unified form or fashion.
That's what I've always wanted for years.
And, if you're a geek and you're comfortable with a computer-style interface and menus and scrolling around and a lot of clicking, I don't think you'll find this difficult. But I cannot imagine an average person who just wants to watch TV being at all happy with this.
Well, that may very well be, and I will certainly see as soon as I can.
We'll get your review. Thank you, Scott. Scott Wilkinson, ultimateavmag.com. Back to the phones we go. And Sam is our next caller, listening on the great KGO in South San Francisco. Hi, Sam.
Hi there. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for hanging on.
No, certainly. It's great talking to you.
My pleasure.
I do installation of cameras, security cameras for people. And I've got this one client that I've been putting DVRs into her place, and the hard drives keep failing on me. And it's just that one client. I'm at my wit's end.
Yeah, I don't blame you. DVRs are very challenging to hard drives, although as a security camera, it probably isn't. A TiVo is tough on hard drives. Obviously, they don't fail every 5 minutes, or you wouldn't have much of a TiVo. But I suspect if it's a particular client whose hard drives fail over and over again, that there's a power issue or a heat issue.
Yeah, the first DVR we put in, she didn't want it exposed outside, so we put it inside of a drawer of a dresser. And then I figured, okay, the fan, you could hear one of the fans, squealing.
Laboring, yeah. It's pretty hot.
I figured, okay, that fan died on me. Maybe this is what killed the hard drive. I pulled it out of the drawer, put a new one in, put it on top of the dresser, and within 6 months, its hard drive is gone.
Yeah.
And I keep replacing units, not just hard drives, but the whole unit, and they keep going out.
Well, that's good. We now know that it's not the unit that's causing the failure. It's not a bad IDE card or SATA connector or something like that, that it's actually the conditions at the house. I would put it on a UPS.
Okay.
Just to protect the power, condition the power. In fact, get a good TWiT or APC UPS that does power conditioning as well as battery backup.
All right.
And then it sounds like you're well aware of ventilation issues. You want to make sure that it has, a drawer is probably not the best place.
I learned that.
Yeah, I mean, you could ventilate the drawer. You could put fans in the back or something. This is always a problem, isn't it? And I'm sure you face this when you do any home theater installation, is that on the one hand, you're putting some pretty powerful hardware in there, which requires cooling. But on the other hand, you want it to be dead silent. Nobody wants hard drive noise or whining or fans. And this is, Apple TV was a classic case of a thing that, the first Apple TV with a hard drive that they designed just to the limit of the tolerances. There's no fan in it, and it's a very tight enclosure, and it gets extremely hot. And I'm sure Apple did a lot of testing to say, well, how hot can we get it before it fails? And the thing, I took one apart and never worked again, right, because the tolerances are so tiny that if you don't have just the right cooling and it's going to fail. So I suspect it's something similar. I mean, these boxes are tough. You deal with this all the time, though. You probably know a lot better than I, Sam, what kinds of issues come up.
Yes. But this particular one, this is the only situation where it just keeps failing.
So you're using the same gear that you use in every other installation. It's not unusual hardware or anything like that.
No, it's not. I've been using this. In fact, I pulled this DVR from another location and put it into her.
Interesting, and it failed at her place. Yeah, it's almost certainly it's heat or power. In fact, I would say certainly. It sounds like you've solved the heat solution, situation. So I would probably say get a UPS. TWiT makes some excellent power conditioning UPSs. That's probably what they want.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Sam.
Great.
Yeah, appreciate it. Great to talk to you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We do have a website where we put all this information, links to everything I'm talking about. You can find out more. It's called techguylabs.com. You'll also find a link there to our great chat room. Lots of fun in there. And to the video. We do stream video, so you can see things like Scott's wizard costume. I'm not in costume, so don't tune in for that. It's all at techguylabs.com. Tom in Riverside, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Leo. Been listening to you since the Tech TV days. I got a question about my XP Pro machine.
Okay.
When I click on the start, then the search button, all the search features work except for all files and folders. When I click on that one, the screen goes blank to the color of the desktop, and then the icons come back, and I'm back to square one. I reformatted the machine Friday to get rid of this problem. It worked up until today, and now I'm back to where I was.
Oh, no. It was working fine, and then it stopped?
Yeah. Yeah, the search program, the search was working, and then this morning I went to search for a file, and I'm back to where I was. It just flickers and gives me a blank desktop, and no more all files. Now, the other ones work, though. The other criteria within the search button works, but that doesn't.
Isn't that interesting? It sounds like there's something that you're doing as a matter of course, like installing Firefox or something, that is disabling that search feature.
Okay.
Can you remember doing something right before it stopped working?
Not really. And in fact, I even did a restore point back to last Friday when I
really, and that didn't work either.
Didn't repair it, no. So.
The search for all is a mixture of a variety of components and bits. And it's what's odd. I mean, I could see how it would be broken, but doing what you did should fix it and kind of permanently. The fact that it broke again is a little concerning. It's almost.
One of the things I found on the internet when I did a search for search problems on Google was people were saying that it could be malware.
Yeah, but why? But why would it come back after you did a complete reinstall?
Pardon me?
Why would it come back if you did a complete reinstall?
I don't know.
You formatted the drive, you started all over again?
That was Friday. Now, today, this morning, I did a restore point back to that point.
Right.
And it didn't repair it.
That did not repair it. Well, I don't know. It could be malware, although I don't know why malware would break that in particular and not other things. And how did you get it again? I would look at, if you did a true clean install, then you did something again that broke it again. And it could be install, for instance, Internet Explorer is kind of crucial to all of this. It could be that you change the default browser type. Do you use IE for your browser?
No, I have Firefox, and it's my default.
It could be that as soon as you made Firefox your default browser, it broke something. They're saying, are there other computers on your network?
Yes.
Could be that one of them is, this could happen, and one of them is infected and spreads the infection via a worm over your network.
Yeah.
So
no.
Next time when you install Windows, make sure before you do anything, including hooking it up to your network, you turn on the Windows firewall. That isolates that computer from the rest of your LAN.
Okay.
Did you install any software right before it stopped working, like the Audible Books Manager, things like that?
No. I mean, I installed all the software that I had previously. I had Office on there, Microsoft Money, that type of stuff. But
it's my suspicion that one of those programs is breaking it. I'm looking at, they sent me the chat room sent me a forum thread from techguy.org, which is not the same tech guy, in which a long thread, which we'll put in the chat room and I'll put on the show notes, in which they gave them all sorts of solutions. And finally, at the end, after 17 different solutions, the guy says, I figured it out. I installed the Audible Download Manager. I've uninstalled it, fixed the registry keys, and it's working again. So this is the problem with modern operating systems. They're hideously complex, and sometimes you get interactions between software and the operating system. So that's why I'm wondering if there's a program that you installed that it was working right up to the time you installed it, and then it stopped working, then you got the culprit. But it's hard to figure out, right?
Yeah. After you do a reformat and you reinstall all your programs, it's hard to remember exactly when things went bad.
It worked right up to the point where you did right after the reformat, but before you started installing software?
No.
When did you test it?
I reformatted the machine on Friday to get rid of this problem and several other problems that I had. And everything worked fine upon, for the first day or two. And then this morning, this problem rewrote.
Well, the chat room has all sorts of ideas. Some say it's a browser hijacker object, which certainly could be. That could be malware. It could be spreading through the LAN. It could be something that's happening from a site that you visit. It could be a hard drive that is, falling apart, and it just happens that that's happening in the same place. It could be all sorts of things. It's very hard for me to narrow it down to just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping I'd get an answer.
I wish I could say, Tom, it's definitely that. But it's absolutely possible for me to come up with 12 different scenarios that it could be. Most likely is an interaction with some other software. Look at some third-party software. I certainly would scan it. Something you can do real quickly, you're running an older version of Windows. I think a move to Windows 7 might be indicated here as well. But one thing you can do quickly, Microsoft every second Tuesday of the month when they do their patches, they send out those updates. They also update something they call the malicious software removal tool. And it's not exactly an antivirus. What it really is a scanner that looks for malicious software. And Microsoft has been pretty good about keeping this up to date. Unfortunately, when you get the update, it doesn't do a thorough scan of your drive. So one thing you might want to try just to see is click Start, Run, and you'll get a command line, and type this, MRT, not MSRT, but MRT, Microsoft Removal Tool. Hit Return. You'll get a GUI, a full, a program will launch, a program you didn't even know you had probably because it doesn't show up in the Start menu. And then click the Thorough Scan and do that. And just to see, That's been up to date. Make sure you do all your Windows updates before you do this, by the way. Dr. Mom's asking a legitimate question. I assume that when you did a reinstall, you formatted and reinstalled. If you just reinstalled on top of, then that didn't fix it. But it sounds like, Dr. Mom, because he had to reinstall all his apps, he probably did do a format install. Tips from the Top Floor, the wonderful podcast for people who want to learn more about photography. Joins us from time to talk about photography. I think we've got an iron photography contest going around, or at least a challenge, a mission. If you go to Flickr, you could see it if you look for the Tech Guy group, flickr.com, FLICKR.com, and go to the Tech Guy group there. You can see our Iron Photographer contest assignment right now.
And it's a scary one.
It is spooky. You don't want to review the entries today, do you?
No, we're not doing that. That's still running, but it is very Halloween themed because people are supposed to take pictures with items orange in them, eyes, but no pumpkins.
Orange and eyes, but
no pumpkin.
Don't do the obvious trivial cliche of having a pumpkin in there.
and the participants are supposed to break a rule, one of their photography
rules. Oh, you're doing
rules.
That too? Oh,
yep,
man.
And it's amazing the results are coming in. People are getting really creative because all of a sudden they have some sort of a constraint and they have to work around what they usually do. And people are starting to deliberately make mistakes, and that is very fun.
Look at iDoc Mark. He did one of his little measuring tools with 2 oranges in them. That's good. Here's some kids with the orange stuff.
That is Gal's photo, yeah.
Yeah, Laura Wick did one where she put orange glitter all over herself. There's some really neat stuff. So you can participate in this. It's very simple. Just take a picture, put in the tags on the picture, put orange eyes, no pumpkin, and then submit it to the Tech Guy group. It's free to do all of that at flickr.com. There is no, I love that, Felix Boo, a kitty cat with orange eyes. There's no, prize. It's not really a contest. It's just a chance for you, an excuse for you to get out there and take some pictures. That's what we like about it. Chris is at chrismarquardt.com. What do you want to talk about today, Chris?
Well, it's Halloween, and the mood is kind of a spooky mood, and people are on Halloween parties, and they want to shoot. You know how if you use flash in a low light situation, you kind of kill the mood in the picture, especially on Halloween.
I hate that.
You get those flat faces, and everything is kind of washed out, and people don't want that. So I wanted to bring you just back to the basics. Some easy ways to stabilize your photography, to make your pictures even with a low light thing where camera has to do a long exposure, to keep your pictures kind of camera shake free. And there are a few tricks that you can use.
I'd love to know this because I hate flash. I really hate flash.
So first of all, are you aware that if you have a DSLR, and a lot of new DSLR users don't know that, if you have a DSLR, that actually the weight of the DSLR is supposed to rest on your left hand?
Wait a minute. Let me think that again. Okay. Now, I'm a lefty, so it'd be right hand for me, right?
No, because the DSLR has this big grip on the right-hand side, so you would hold that
still
on
have
this
to hold
grip.
it the same way, yeah.
And that kind of suggests to hold the weight of the camera there, but that is actually counterproductive when you want more stable pictures. What you do is you take your left hand in front of your chest, like very natural in front of your chest, and then you flick it forward so the palm looks upward. That's what you put the camera into. So the camera sits on that hand. That's what holds all the weight of the camera.
And that'll make it steadier.
That'll make it much steadier. Now you take your left elbow and kind of squeeze it a bit against your rib cage.
Oh, so yeah.
You turn into your own tripod, and now what the right hand does, it only guides the camera, and you can press it, but you can let go, and the weight still sits on the left hand.
So that's the test. And you're holding the lens usually in this case.
It's kind of half. The camera is a bit on the hand, and the lens is a bit on the hand.
The palm of my hand or the end of my hand that the camera's on, and then the lens is resting, and so that's the test. If you can remove your right hand and the camera doesn't fall to the ground,
and the camera doesn't fall, and it doesn't even move. So this way you can just imagine you holding the weight of the camera, and the DSLRs are heavy. You hold that with the right hand, and you press the shutter. That is a recipe for disaster because you have to.
You're going to jiggle it.
Hold it. Yeah, you're going to jiggle it. Now left hand holds it steady. Right hand doesn't really hold it. It's just guiding it. Press the shutter. That gives you more stable pictures. That's the first one.
That's good. I like that.
Don't forget the elbow in.
Elbow in against your body.
A lot of photographers having both arms out with the elbows up in the air. That's not stable.
No.
Elbows
in
in,
fact, can you use your face to stabilize it a little bit too?
That is the next thing.
It's pressing against my nose, but
no, actually, the eyebrow, the contact with the eyebrow. If you don't wear glasses, that's a very good tip. Have the eyepiece contact your eyebrow. That is another point of stability.
Excellent.
So when you're standing up doing photography, your stance is a very important factor. How your feet are on the ground. If you have your feet about hip width on the ground and both feet really on the ground, not just on tiptoes, but the full both feet flat on the ground, that will give you a lot of stability. And then like a chair, a third point adds stability. So if you lean against something, you're adding a third point of stability. So you basically turn into your own tripod.
Isn't the usual rule of thumb that you take the focal length of the lens, let's say it's a 50-millimeter lens, divide it in half, that's the slowest shutter speed you could use and reasonably be steady, so 1/25. Is that the rule of thumb?
Kind of. So if you shoot at 100-millimeter focal length, the rule of thumb is to use 100th of a second or faster. If you shoot at 500 millimeters, you want a 500th of a second or faster. Yeah, it works with this kind of by holding the camera on the left hand.
You can get a little bit more.
Much more.
Yeah.
You can get like you can half the shutter speed. I get up to down to maybe 1/10 of a second.
Wow. Now, this isn't going to help if people are moving around in the picture.
Well, it'll at least stabilize you.
At least you won't be moving around. They may be blurry. There are two things that can move. You, as the photographer, can move the camera, and then people in the shot can move. So obviously, if people move around, that's not a bad thing.
At least the rest would. No,
if the background's steady and people are moving around, that can be a nice effect.
If you want to emphasize that motion in the picture, that is exactly what you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you know that the way you breathe has to do with your stability?
Well, I would imagine if you're breathing like this,
okay,
it's not so good.
If you just came from a run, that might not be a good idea.
A lot of times when I'm taking pictures, I've just climbed a lot of stairs, walked a long way. I'm out of breath.
In general, if you're not out of breath, the breath still has an influence on how steady you are. A sniper, that's a very good analogy. A sniper breathes out while shooting, slowly breathes out. So if you take a breath in and then while slowly breathing out, you fire the shot, that will give you more stability.
Yeah.
Then next thing is, how do you press the shutter? I see a lot of people who kind of slam the shutter, and that moves the camera, that jiggles the camera way too much. Best is to roll your finger over the shutter.
This is just like shooting again, like shooting a gun again. You breathe out just like a sniper would, and you squeeze just like you do when you're doing target practice. You never pull the trigger, you squeeze it.
Exactly. Do we have time for 2 more short ones?
Why not? I'm having fun. This is great. I want to know more.
If you hold the camera in portrait orientation, you have 2 choices. You can either have your hand on top, or you can have your hand on the bottom. Try on the bottom.
No, I always put it on top.
Yeah, you know why? Because that is just not stable. Because all of a sudden you have that weight of the camera on your right hand again.
No, I want to have again. The key is to support it with your left.
Support it with your left. You can really let go the right hand. The camera sits on the left hand, and now all you do is you guide the camera with the right hand, and you have a very.
I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
Thing. And last tip: be an archer.
Be an archer.
Yes, you know how an archer fires an arch and waits until the arch hits the target until they move?
Wait a minute. Okay, when the archer fires an arrow, they don't move till after the arrow hits the target.
They wait for the arrow to hit the target. They don't want to anticipate any motion, because even the anticipation of motion will kind of make you not really hit the target. So the same is true for photography. If you shoot a picture and then already anticipate to take the camera off your eye and look at the display, that will add instability. If you imagine you were just shooting an arrow and wait for a second maybe for that to hit its virtual target, you will be more stable.
It's like when I bowl. After I send the bowling ball down the alley, I don't move. I don't shake my butt until after the strike.
That is exactly right. And the same you do with photography, just that, well, you don't have that bowling ball, but you imagine one. And
I will imagine a bowling ball shooting to the target. Great tips. You know, anything to avoid using a flash, seriously. And that's one reason why I think a lot of photographers, a couple of reasons, but a lot of photographers are moving to higher-end digital SLRs because you can use faster lenses that make it possible to shoot without a flash. I love my very fast, f50 1.2 lens. I take, well, tonight when I go out for Halloween, I'll be taking that.
Which is a heavy lens, and you want to support that with your left hand now.
Yep, I will now. I've learned my lesson. Chris Marquardt is a great photography teacher and a professional photographer to boot. You can find out more at his website, ChrisMarquardt.com. And do listen to his Tips from the Top Floor podcast several times a week. It's a really useful show, and always great to talk to you, Chris. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Leo.
Really appreciate it.